It's not going to help. Teaching is not for everyone.
Love can make you, I don't know, so you don't think straight.
I should introduce myself. Ellie, I'm Nancy. Nancy Miller.
You might have read about me.
My name's Dan, by the way.
And I mean I can explain it. Absolutely. It only made things worse.
Those kids were horrible. I still can't say a single nice thing. And their parents were
I never could put it into words.
Some people should not be allowed to have children.
He was the best thing that's ever happened to me.
There was one little boy who would kick me as hard as he could. Every chance he got.
I couldn't believe it when he asked me out. It was like
ridiculously painful. I mean, every day, every chance he got, kicking me. And he was one of the better ones. If that gives you any idea of how bad they really were.
But really, I think if you could have seen that fire, I mean, it may not be your thing, but it was seriously impressive. Seriously, just an amazing fire. Big and hot, waves of heat. So you couldn't look right at it. You had to look away.
You see, he was the absolute love of my life.
Three strangers.
3 stories.
3 murders.
We are all very familiar with the rule of threes.
But what we often overlook is how the 3 instances are related.
In our stories of fear,
rage,
and heartbreak,
what seems to be 3 completely unrelated tales
turns out to be a simple incident of cause and effect.
Bright Apple Crush by Steve Yoki.
I didn't look away though.
It's hard when you decide you're going to try and help people. Become a teacher. Take a job where you can make a difference. Where you think you can make a difference. It's even harder when that turns out to be impossible.
After months of dating, and I mean the best kind of dating. You know, the sweet, hot, can't be without him kind of dating. We decided to move in together.
So like I said, I can explain it. He was cheating on me. That afternoon there was some kind of accident at the local school, and I came home early. And that's frustrating. I usually work most of the night, so I came home early.
A big decision to live together, really, but it felt right.
She was there, in my bed, with my husband. Just crazy! I walked in, but they didn't even see me. I stood there a while, but they still didn't see me, because they were so into. Then I just turned around and walked out.
I mean, it wasn't perfect dating. I don't want to sound... Well, you know, it was all right. I guess we did have our fights, and some of them had gotten a little physical, but it was nothing.
Especially when you can help a kid and they don't want it. When you're trying to teach a kid and they act like they're smarter than you.
So anyway, I asked him to move in, and he said yes.
A bunch of little 10-year-olds.
I didn't even know the girl. I thought maybe I would have known her. Like he knew anything!
Except how to be mean. You know, no one warned you about that. In college, in your classes, even when you were student teaching. No one ever tells you. Kids can be horrible.
The second night after he moved in, I spilled a bottle of wine. It was just careless.
There was a rope in the closet at the end of the hall. I could still hear them.
But he struck me so hard that I blacked out. Just a sharp pain in the jaw. And then nothing. No, when I woke up, I wasn't even sure it had. And then I cleaned up the wine.
I still remember so vividly the moment when
I just snapped! That started to happen a lot, actually. Not the spilling,
I was at my desk.
but the hitting.
And I was trying to explain photosynthesis. Well, the way to explain photosynthesis to a bunch of 10-year-olds. The plants have their leaves and the sunlight shines down.
There was a bright light that shone in through the curtains. You see, my apartment faces security lights, and it never really got dark. I mean, he hadn't noticed until he moved in. This became another source of tension, something that was my fault.
And as I'm trying to teach these kids something, I was at the board writing with my back to them like this. But then I got hit with something. And I mean, hit hard in my shoulder, and again in my leg, and again in my hip.
But then it got so the bruises were becoming something I had to explain. I felt like a bad after-school special. But you know, I guess most of the stuff could have actually been avoided.
Had I just paid more attention. It took me a minute to even realize what was happening. These kids were throwing rocks at me. These kids in my class, these young kids, were actually throwing rocks at me.
And laughing. They were laughing and grunting, and all of a sudden it felt like I was in a tunnel. With traffic, this roaring white noise that kind of pushed everything else into the background. And then I realized I was gripping that rope so tight that my hands were raw.
And that was okay for a while. I mean, well, you see, he was the first person I ever loved. He was everything to me, and well, you take the good with the bad. That's how it works. Right?
I couldn't even speak.
They were still having sex when I hit the girl in the back of the head. I don't really remember what I hit her with, but it was heavy. He screamed out, but it was muddled by that noise in my ears. And after I hit him a couple of times, he stopped moving.
Eventually it got to the point where I didn't even try to avoid it anymore. Stopped flinching completely, and well, he seemed to understand. I just accepted it.
They were hitting me.
While he was hitting me.
Eventually I stopped hitting them, tied them to the bed.
I had to take the rest of the day off. I went home.
But then last night, something was different.
And I walked downstairs.
And I didn't feel anything at all when he was hitting me.
And I walked outside.
And I didn't fall down.
And I walked
And I
to the
was
garage.
aware on some level that my body was moving, right? But it was like watching a movie, but standing right up against the screen, you know? So none of the images has made sense at all.
And while I was at home, I had some time to think. To think about what really happened that day, and to everything that had happened to me my 3 months at that school. And I made some decisions about those 10-year-olds. If you can't teach them to even be human, then what good are they?
It's all kind of a blur still.
The garage is where we kept the gasoline.
And then it was clear. I mean, it was really simple.
It was really simple.
It all seemed so
Simple.
I looked down, and somehow he was on the ground, and he was screaming, and there was blood everywhere, and I kept bringing my boot down on his neck and face, and I remember thinking, this shouldn't be happening, I shouldn't be doing this without having any control over it. There was a point where I didn't even recognize him anymore. And my boots were covered in blood.
The healthiest snack in the world.
I always carry matches.
All of a sudden I could hear my breathing and my heart pounding in my chest. There were tears on my face, but you see, I didn't stop.
Just like this. And whoosh!
So I passed them out and I said, okay kids, now it's important that you all stay healthy. But I know not all of you love to eat apples. So here's a little deal for you guys. Whoever finishes their apple first gets an extra 20 minutes at recess.
It all happened so quickly.
It all happened so quickly.
It all happened so quickly, they just started tearing into the apples, and I'll confess,
It was exciting and horrifying all at once. It was a
rush of
rush.
flame up the side of the building. Faster than I would have imagined.
I mean, I didn't expect them to react with such enthusiasm for just an extra 20 minutes at recess. I thought it would somehow be harder.
I finally stopped.
I might have used too much poison. If I would have known they'd been so ferocious, I probably would have eased off a bit.
I'm sure they woke up at some point.
I'd like to think I would have been more restrained.
I like to think they woke up right in the middle of it.
You never think of yourself.
But that might be too generous, really.
Well, when it was over, I guess I didn't really know what to do. I remember I took off my boots and set them in the bathtub and let that fill up while I went over to the washing machine and
It took
took off my
about 10
clothes and
minutes
threw
before the
those in.
first one started convulsing.
I started that and went back
Another
to the
quickly after
bathtub
that.
and started scrubbing the boots.
I wouldn't let any of them go in the bathroom, and I wouldn't let any of them leave.
In soapy.
I told them
But
to stay in their
the boots
seats.
were clean.
For the first time, I
I
don't
set
know
the
if they
boots
were
out to dry,
afraid
not
or
really
disoriented or
drain
just
the
stunned,
tub.
but
I
they
scrubbed the
did
tub
as they
clean
were
and then
told.
took a
When the
shower.
roof caved in,
I sat
And
by
that
my
was
desk and
it.
I watched
Back
as
to
these
the washing
worthless
machine.
children
Dark
collapsed
And I
on
put my
and
clothes
that
in the
one
washer
of their
and dryer.
desks puddles of spit and
And I went
crimson
back
streak
out
on
to
my
the living
car,
room
and they would
and
cry and
check
ask
on
me
it.
how to get confused.
And
I couldn't make
and
myself
he
leave.
was
You know, it's hard for me to
still
say
trying
this,
and
but
trying to.
honestly, it was a
There
real
was a point where
delight to
he
watch
was
how these
talking and I
horses
started to stop
suffer.
and control
And the way
him.
I had
I called
suffered.
the police
When all I had wanted
waited
to
for an
do was
ambulance.
help them become better people. There was only one or two left, mildly conscious, before I began to realize this might cause a problem. I knew they wouldn't understand, so the general reaction didn't surprise me. I guess I thought maybe some of the other teachers would, but no. No one did.
I feel like I could hear those sirens for hours before anyone actually got there. I guess I didn't know what to do. I just sat on the couch, far, far away from him.
But I think secretly, some of the teachers were proud of me.
It took forever, but I could hear those sirens. You know, when they got there, they told me there was a huge fire a few blocks down, and that's why they were so late. I guess they said they were sorry.
When the police spoke to me, they assumed I was the woman in bed with my husband.
I told them I came home from drinks with friends and found him like that.
So they were surprised.
You know, I can't even read newspapers or watch television anymore because of the ridiculous things people are saying about me.
I rode with him in that ambulance, though. Held his hand. I waited while he was in surgery.
Now there's going to be an investigation. I suppose that makes sense.
Saying I hate children. It's amazing what people will believe.
I don't know what I'm gonna do, though, when he wakes up. When he can tell people what I did.
I didn't really try to cover anything up. I wasn't thinking that way, I guess. I wasn't thinking at all.
Listen! I took that job because I love kids. I love working with kids.
But I still think they deserved it. I can feel it in my bones.
Don't you see, though? Those weren't kids. They were something else.
I sit alone now and wait.
I've been told as part of this whole court thing that I'll be going to a hospital where someone will be taking care of me for a change.
I'm sitting by his hospital bed and I can't help but think, what is he gonna say to me when he wakes up? Is he gonna remember anything at all? I barely do.
That doesn't make it better.
That'll be nice. Healthier. I don't know.
But the doctors, when they came out, they told me, due to the extent of his injuries, they don't think he's gonna wake up.
I wish I could explain that fire to you. It
doesn't matter anyway, right? No harm done.
But the thing I remember the most,
right.
Apple.
crush.
One thing. On